Welcome to Conquering Your Clownfish, a podcast dedicated to transforming disabilities into special abilities. I'm your host, Brady Murray. Welcome to the Conquering Your Clownfish podcast. I am super excited to present my amazing guest, Pete Larkin. Pete is a dedicated marketing professional, a passionate advocate, and an exceptional older brother to his sibling, Brigham, who has Down syndrome. Born 2 years after Pete, Brigham had the benefit of his brother's care from an early age. This nurturing bond strengthened their relationship, and they remain best friends to this day. So, Pete, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brady. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, this is going to be a super fun episode for me because I have to share my introduction into your brother, Brigham. So, Brigham, let me get ages right here. Brigham right now is 36. Pete, you're 38, right? And so you guys are just 2 years apart. I went to Texas Roadhouse for my birthday this last year.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday night. It was really busy. And I had my whole crew there. So like all 11 of us were there. And 11 kids, so 13 of us. And we go in and we had to wait. And so, as you typically do on a Friday night at Texas Roadhouse, and as I went in, I saw Brigham. And there was this man who has Down syndrome. I had my two boys who have Down syndrome, and he lit up the room, like in a way that just anybody that's seen Brigham knows what I'm talking about and knows that there's really not a way to describe this other than it was electric, it was magical, it was just amazing. And so Brigham immediately recognized my boy Nash has Down syndrome and my boy Coop. Like he saw that and he recognized that. And he went up to him and he was just being so nice and so kind. And then they told him that it was my birthday. And then the party was just on. And so Brigham made me feel like absolute royalty there. And it was so fun and so friendly and just couldn't stop. I would also say when my daughter showed up, she's in college, Brigham really liked her as well. And I think he thought she was cute. And so that was really cute because he was so nice to her too. So that was pretty fun.
Classic.
Yep. But Pete,
Brigham has just
tell us about Brigham.
Yeah, I mean, that experience you had, Brady, is not uncommon, not just at Texas Roadhouse, but really everywhere. I think that's one of the great strengths that he has is just making people feel awesome, feel seen, feel loved, feel welcomed, feel like $1 million. You can always count on Brigham, no matter how your day is, how you're feeling, to make you feel great, like $1 million, like royalty, as you said, and just to bring a smile to your face. And it's one of the things that I really respect and admire about Brigham is his just way of being and to love unconditionally, regardless of who that person might be. And even how those people may have treated him in the past, like there's no grudges, right? He doesn't hold things against people. And it has been such a blessing to me in my life in so many different ways. And it really has just been a joy and a blessing.
He is. And so I've had the blessing of getting to meet and be around hundreds of individuals with Down syndrome and spend personal time with them. And there's two, I mean, there's many that stand out, but there's two that really stand out to me. And one is Tim Harris. And so I don't know if you know Tim Harris. Tim's in New Mexico and he's kind of gone viral throughout his life and the amazing things that he's done, but he just has like a way about him. And there's Brigham. And these two are, I think, almost the exact same age almost. And they have something that is even extra special. If you're in Utah County, go to Texas Roadhouse when Brigham is there and he will light up your life. Pete, I want to go back to when you were kids. And so, your whole life from your earliest memory, I have to imagine, is with Brigham. But your life and your path is, I would say, special and very connected to Brigham just due to the circumstances. And so as I understand it, you played a critical part in caregiving for Brigham at a very young age. Can you share about that?
Yeah, Brady, I'll do my best not to get emotional. It's a special story and experience for me. When we were kids, we grew up in South Dakota, born and raised there. Really, loved growing up there, an awesome place. And unfortunately, when I was about 8.5 or so, my parents divorced. They split up. And so Brigham would have been about 6.5. So when my parents split up, we ended up moving to Utah. And at that point, he left South Dakota. We were living with my mom. And my dad left his career working with a company called Gateway Computers, if you remember them.
I do.
So left a great job in tech, came out here to be with us in Utah. He was pretty close, but still he was getting his feet back under him after having to kind of restart in his career, find a new thing. And my mom was working at that time. And so it meant that Brigham and I were, oftentimes home alone, which meant that, I a lot of the times ended up being the babysitter, if you will, the caregiver. And there's no like ill will or negativity towards my parents and the experiences that they went through, that put us into those kind of circumstances. We had a roof over our head, we had food in our bellies, and we were loved. But the circumstances just were different for me as a kid. And in those times, like, you don't recognize as a kid really what's normal, what's abnormal until later in life when you're kind of mature a bit and can recognize. But for me, that was just how life was.
Yeah.
And so my siblings they contributed and supported and helped a lot, but they were oftentimes off doing extracurricular things, hanging with friends. And so it meant for the majority of the time, I was kind of that primary caregiver, which just, forced me to grow up faster than is normal. And I think that is something that siblings to those with Down syndrome or any type of disability, physical, mental, or even emotional, they're put into a situation where they become caregivers and need to learn to grow up a lot faster. And they look at life and their situation kind of in a bit of a different lens because they're forced to, they have to.
Yeah. So let's unpack this a bit. I'll come back to the divorce side. But first and foremost, I see this in my own children, and in particular with those children that are right around the age of Nash, my boy, who's 17 now, that has Down syndrome. So these kids, and I'm going to use Ridge as his example. Ridge is 15, Nash is 17. Ridge is Nash's fiercest and most valiant protector.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is all he has known his whole life. As is often the case with individuals who have Down syndrome, they will elope, or they are not afraid to like run, and they'll just go wander and they'll get lost. Like, they're kind of innocent that way. And you got to keep an eye on them in the kitchen. And like, there is a constant like stress that us parents experience for kids that have Down syndrome that are like 4, 5, 6, all the way up into teenage years, as it relates to them running off or getting into trouble or doing something that could harm them. And I have actually seen that with my son, that still to this day, he is like very, very focused and cautious and has like that instinct about him for his brother Nash, which honestly I feel a little bit bad about, because I want him to just be a kid and to just grow up and to just have fun and not have to worry about if his brother Nash has left the house and is gone. And so I have to imagine you experienced that. You felt that with Brigham. Is that fair?
Yeah, certainly. Brigham, very similar, would often just get up and go. And he'd just wander around the neighborhood. And I mean, you go in to use the restroom and you come
Yeah.
out and
He's
they're
gone.
gone.
Yep.
And or you're working on your homework and you come out and they're gone. Like, there's
That's
no
right.
warning, and it's by surprise.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're intentionally trying to be sneaky.
No.
but they're surprisingly, ninja-like skills, and they can just
Yeah.
get out. And I would leave the house oftentimes just in panic, right? Where are they? And there were even times when he would, leave the house without clothes or,
Yeah.
straight in their
Yes.
underwear.
Yes.
And gratefully, we had great neighbors, and we even, we had this dog who was incredibly good. And I now look back at it and see, like, wow, that was actually kind of a blessing that somehow just knew how to find Brigham.
Yeah.
And I would just like let the dog out, and then I'd say, find Brigham, and then follow the dog.
Yeah. So those that are listening to this podcast, whether that's because you have a child with Down syndrome or a different disability, are probably chuckling inside and shaking their head yes, because they can relate to what we're talking about. And oftentimes now looking back, those are actually the most fun stories to tell when, like mine was Nash escaped in a dirty diaper and nothing else. And 45 minutes later, the police brought him home, which in the moment was not fun, especially when my wife found out about this. And so, but now looking back, we can chuckle about it, but it's terrifying in that moment. Now I put myself in your shoes as an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old that is caring for your brother. And now add that layer of your parents just divorced and the emotion that comes with that and the trying to understand why and what that looks like. That is a lot to take on, Pete, like for anybody, but especially an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. When I look back at it, I have, as an adult, as a parent, I look at it a little different now. But at the time, you just kind of take it in strides, and
It's your norm.
it's the norm, and you're just kind of living one day at a time. And it definitely, as I look back at my childhood, I think, man, like that's hard. I wouldn't want that, for other kids, because your childhood becomes very different.
That's right.
Right? Especially in this case, where before you just go out to play, you have to think, is my brother okay?
That's right.
Or can I even go?
Well, and see, it's not, and this is one thing that I don't know. Well, I'll do my best to articulate, but I know exactly what you're talking. It's not a matter of like, hey, you're watching your younger brother and like you can communicate with him and just tell him, hey, like knock it off. And you get in a little scuffle and they, it's fine. Like there is a level of accountability that you have for your brother, his safety and well-being. And that is a pressure that doesn't go away. Okay, so that is there constantly. And again, I'm just trying to process this while you're going through obviously the other stuff that you have to go through. And so my heart goes out for you, brother. Like I just do. And so I want to read something that you wrote in your preparation that I think is super, super applicable here. And then we can talk about where you're at right now. So the question was, what advice would you give someone who just received a diagnosis for a loved one? You said it will be hard, but so many blessings will come. Also, treat them as normal as possible. Give grace when needed, but don't make things easy for them just because of their situation. This is like the whole purpose of our podcast, right? Conquering your clownfish. Oftentimes we are the ones who are the biggest deterrent of our children and loved ones growing. And this last line is what I'm talking about, or that I'd really like to emphasize. Removing their trials or hardships won't help them to grow stronger. And you know that with Brigham, but I also have to imagine that you know that firsthand for yourself, that removing a trial and a hardship for a 7, 8, 9-year-old child does not ultimately make it, or it makes it so they are not going to be able to grow. And so I have to imagine that there's been some good that has come from this experience that you had when you were just at a young age. And so I'd love to fast forward now and talk about present day Brigham and Pete and what your guys' relationship looks like and what your life looks like now with your brother.
Yeah. I think that situation was really, while hard, very beneficial to us both. With people that have Down syndrome, there are different levels of functionality, cognitive ability that comes genetically, where some with Downs may not speak much at all, they may not learn how to read, and others who they can live pretty independently, save a couple of different scenarios. Brigham, for example, he didn't start speaking, I want to say, till he was around 6, maybe 7,
Wow.
like kind of pretty clear
Yep.
sentences. And then, but now, like, he's often referred to as very high functioning,
Yeah.
pretty independent, aside from managing finances and managing kind of food intake, what he's eating, how much he's eating.
Yep.
Like, he can live pretty independently.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's been a pretty great blessing for our family. He gets to work on his own. He works hard, and he literally could live by himself with a little support on those items. But the experience that we went through growing up, I think, helped us both. Those trials that we had helped us build a resilience, and also I think just a self-reliance and independence. And those attributes have been a great blessing to me. And while, I would have preferred to try and come upon those attributes in a different way, it has been a great blessing to me, to my family, my wife, my children, and also to that relationship with Brigham. Today, the relationship is still very similar. And like you say, still best friends. He was my best man at my wedding. And we often talk on the phone. Sadly, this breaks my heart. I wish that I had more time to take his calls, because it seems like every time he calls, I'm working, or I'm, doing something with the kids, or like not as great of a time anymore. And I don't know what that experience is like for Brigham, because I used to be always present, right? And always available to him. And he won't grow up with all of the same experiences and opportunities that I will. The same level of a job, although he loves his job, works hard, has been working there for many years at Texas Roadhouse. Different opportunities for having, a family, growing a family. And so as our lives continue to progress and shift and change, a lot of his kind of stays the same, in the sense that he, still has a lot of time, and wants to, talk to his brother and brothers, siblings, friends, the same. But then their availability shifts, and he sees that my family's changing, and my brothers can't be there the same way that they used to be. And while my heart is still there, I can't be with him all the time anymore. He manages that well. Like, he does well with that, but still I can imagine that's hard
Well,
and
Pete,
different.
you played such a pivotal role in Brigham's life all growing up, and in that caregiver role. I really emphasize that, in a caregiver role. And that is not something that you asked for. It's not something that you necessarily signed up for. Although maybe we might get to another life and find out that maybe you did. But
Yeah.
and so that is very much understandable. And now you're at a phase in life where you have a wife, you have children, and you still feel that responsibility for Brigham, and your ability to be able to fulfill that inner need that stems back to your formative years, is you feel conflicted, and I can see that. So I have good news that I want to share about this, and you may be aware of this, but I remember, I honestly don't remember the name of the movie, but I remember growing up, I grew up a big baseball fan, and I remember watching a baseball movie, and I'm going to butcher it, because truly, I don't even remember the name of the movie, but I remember specifically that it was about a story of a kid that grew up, I think, in the Midwest, small rural farming community, that just had a natural ability to pitch, and was just like beyond, but nobody knew about him. And by happen chance, and by by either dumb luck or divine intervention, and probably a little bit of both, Major League Scout like came through their town and for whatever reason had to stop, and somehow, like, this is just the fantasy of a Major League Scout, heard about or saw this kid pitching and went and then watched him pitch and saw something very, very special, which created the opportunity for this young man to be able to go on and fulfill his dreams. And as I like to say it, sing the song that they're meant to sing. And so when I saw Brigham at Texas Roadhouse, like, in my mind, I just could see what I would feel is just like what this Major League Scout saw in this pitcher in the Midwest, in a chance, like a talent, a raw talent that nobody knew about. And I remember looking like, Brigham's got to be like famous somewhere on social media, and Brigham's got to have his own TV show or YouTube channel or something. I mean, this guy is like that level, right? And I compare him to Tim Harris, who has, like, he's met President Obama, he's got a book, he had a restaurant, he's been like, he's just like larger than life. And Brigham's the equivalent of Tim in my mind. And I didn't see anything. And there was nothing other than what Brigham's doing at Texas Roadhouse, which is they should give him a raise. So, as you may know, we actually do mini documentaries. The one that we just did 30 days ago has over 1 million views already. And we've done a mini doc on Brigham and his story. And so that will air soon. But that's just the beginning, my friend. So, in my mind, and so Brigham is now going to be a spokesperson for us in our summer run club. Okay. And like I say, this is just the beginning for what we have plans for Brigham, to the extent that he wants to, obviously. But in my mind, individual Brigham has a song that he's meant to sing, and he's only scratched the surface so far. If Rod's Heroes has anything to do with it, we're gonna make sure that that song is sung not just to our city, our state, our nation, but truly to the world. And I think he's going to have a lot of good times in the future, fulfilling that divine destiny that he is destined for. So I think the future is bright with him, Pete.
I absolutely agree. And man, I'm so proud of him.
You should be.
He is just living a great life. He is so full of joy, and he loves his routine, and he's just having a great time. And I couldn't ask for anything more. And I'm really looking forward for the opportunities ahead of him, to be working with you, and for all the blessings and great things you've already done for Brigham and telling his story. But he definitely has so much ahead of him, and I can't imagine what all of that will be. But after everything, what I see, the greatness coming from Brigham is just that ability to bring joy and happiness and spread love, and for him to be able to make people's day and just to spread that. I love that that's an opportunity for him.
It's his superpower, and you've played an integral part in that superpower being realized for so many people and experienced by so many people. And I just think it's only going to grow from here. So in wrapping up, I have another final question that I'd love to ask you. When I talk with families that recently received a diagnosis, and we do a lot of work in the adoption space for individuals with Down syndrome, there's a promise that I make to them. And the promise is that this individual with Down syndrome is going to change your life. It is going to change the life of your children. But where you probably don't realize is it is going to have generational impact on your family and your grandchildren, and probably even your great-grandchildren. And so I have to ask, Pete, you have children, and this is generational now. And so I'm curious how Uncle Brigham has impacted your children.
Yeah, he is. I love this question. He is a beloved uncle, and he is, over 20 something nieces and nephews now.
That's
And
great.
He loves being an uncle, and he's great at it. He remembers, I mean, he knows all of their names, of course, but he remembers their birthdays.
Yeah.
And he will call and make sure that he communicates, his love from Uncle Brigham. For my kids, it is, they love being around Uncle Brigham, and he is so kind and sweet and tender with them. For them, there is definitely, from very early days, they learn to be kind and respectful and understanding to those who are different from them, in every aspect, not just for those who may have different cognitive state, or physical, or racial, or whatever. It is a learning of love and acceptance. And I see that in them. And also, they recognize that Uncle Brigham is different, but they love him the same. And I think also the attributes that, even in one very small fraction of a degree to those that Brigham has, that I have picked up because of my relationship with Brigham and learned from Brigham. I think that my kids also, that's part of just, but from their experience with me as their father,
Yeah.
that they pick up on those, and that some of those traits become theirs, and some of those strengths become theirs as well. And I when you say multi-generational, I think that's absolutely right, and to degrees that we can't fathom on how far and wide that goes.
Definitely. Wonderful. Pete, you've been a great guest on the show. Thank you for your example. Thank you for your unconditional love that you have for your brother. It shows that this is not something that just is surface level, but this is very deep seated. And Brigham is singing that song that he's meant to sing as a result of much of that love that you have shown to him. And so I think we should definitely keep a favorite on this episode so that we can go fast forward 10 years from now and see where Brigham's at in 10 years from now and the impact that he's having. Because I just think the guy is just a rock star, and I'd love to help him to be able to, like I say, sing that song that he's meant to sing. So Pete, thanks for being a guest on the show.
Thanks, Brady. This has been so great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conquering Your Clownfish. If you liked what we discussed on the podcast today and want to continue the conversation, please visit us at conqueringyourclownfish.com. And please don't forget to subscribe.